Learning Walks and Talks professional learning, training and support material for school leaders. The material in this presentation has been developed in consultation with Dr. Lynn Sharratt. The aim of this workshop is for school leaders to identify the recommended protocols of Learning Walks and Talks to consider when establishing a process for conducting learning walks and talks in their school. Success criteria contributes greatly to the clarity of professional learning and evaluating the impact of the professional learning. After engaging with this professional learning support material, you will know if you are successful, if you can identify the elements and protocols of learning walks and talks, state the 5 questions to ask students when walking in classrooms, and identify the 5 steps in walking and talking in classrooms with teachers. Leaders need to be knowledgeable others when leading sustainable change in classroom practice. School leaders strive to build collective capacity, create new energising knowledge together, and move schools from being places of plans and good intentions to centres of purposeful practice. Collaborative learning among teachers requires a school culture in which school leaders walk and talk in classrooms. Learning walks and talks are a daily practice that develops and enhances leadership competencies. Learning walks and talks help leaders understand how they can support assessment-informed instruction. They provide an opportunity for school leaders to understand high-impact classroom practice and work toward achieving it in every classroom, reducing variation in practice within and across the school. Walking in classrooms daily and talking about assessment that drives instruction are 2 keys to becoming an instructional leader who is focused on increased achievement for all learners. The purpose of learning walks and talks is to reflect on developing patterns and trends in schools, to ask the 5 key questions of students, and determine explicit instruction to ask parallel, reflective questions about teacher practice, which should result in principal and teacher collaborative work. Learning walks and talks are not judgmental, rather they are growth promoting by providing constructive feedback to formulate a plan for the next level of work in the school. Learning walks and talks are most effective when they occur daily and briefly, because those school leaders, teacher leaders, walking, collect multiple data points over time and thereby gather a complete picture of how the whole school they are observing is performing within a student improvement focus. When walking into classrooms, the leader does not interrupt the teaching, rather they are observing evidence of positive impact on learning. If there is an opportunity, students are asked 5 key questions. Observations are short in length, no longer than 5 minutes, and the time of day walking occurs in classrooms. Leaders need to clearly articulate a shared vision. Changes in teacher beliefs and motivation only come after changes in practice. Successful practice changes beliefs only when the vision articulated by leaders aligns with the shared beliefs and successful practices. Learning walks and talks are connected to 6 of the 14 parameters. When leaders ask, do I have high expectations for every student and teacher? Lynn Sharratt explains that there are different types of walks that can occur at the individual school level, cluster of school level, or system of schools level.
What kind of walks are there? Well, this would be a training walk. It's actually not on there. But system leaders walk, network leaders walk with their principals. If you've got often small clusters of school, and I think professional learning communities, you're talking about that, communities of practice, no? So they would have the meeting in one of their schools and walk in the school before the meeting starts. So there's network walks, there are cluster walks, communities of practice walks. There's system walks where we walk together looking, are there places where resources need to be differentiated? Are there places where schools need more support than other schools? Because not everything is equal. There are self-assessment walks when we walk with a critical friend. So as system leaders, we invite someone else from the system to walk with us, or walk alongside us, and it's for our own personal learning. So Bede and Noel might walk together, and they might have two different things they want to look at in terms of their own understanding, their own improvement in terms of understanding instructional leadership. So they walk together and are mirrors for each other in that walk. And I often ask about now, who's your critical friend that you will invite to walk with you? And the fourth kind of walk is the walk that principals and leadership teams do daily in their own schools. So just to let you know, different kinds of walks for different reasons.
Lynn Sharrett has identified 5 discrete steps to conducting learning walks and talks. Step 1 involves the walking team, identifying the focus for the walk. All learning walks and talks begin at the data wall in order to make an emotional connection to and have cognitive insights about each student. When discerning as a walking team the focus of the walking, consideration could be given to observing the evidence of the gradual release of responsibility, modelled, shared, guided and independent teaching, the explicit teaching of learning intentions and co-constructed success criteria, the descriptive feedback given to students, how teachers make thinking visible with the use of accountable talk and graphic organisers, the way in which intentional literacy and numeracy skills are being taught, and how students are engaging with rich learning tasks. Step 2 of learning walks and talks involves going into the classroom and walking and observing for 5 minutes. If there is an opportunity to ask students the 5 key questions, walkers are able to ask, what are you learning? Why? How are you doing? How do you know? How can you improve? Where do you go for help when you have a question? Lynn Sharrett explains to walkers the importance of not inferring when observing.
Just want to, before we start our first walk, be very aware of the assumptions you make. Because we all have these ticker tapes that we get up the ladder of inference pretty fast. We make assumptions without actually collecting a pool of facts. So when we're in a classroom, we want to make sure that when we come out of the classroom and talk together in our little group, that we're talking about observable data, not what we think was happening or what we think wasn't happening. So we're really aware of drawing inaccurate conclusions by making assumptions.
When in the classroom, walkers are encouraged to take note of the walls that teach. Are learning intentions and success criteria visible and current? Do the walls that teach support learners during independent experiences, reflecting the gradual release of responsibility operating in the classroom? Step 5 involves the walker or walking team moving out of the classroom and discussing the observable practices, reflecting on expected practices in the school. As a walking team, Lynn Sharrett encourages you to reflect on how the students were engaging in the learning and how they articulated the relevancy of their learning. It is also an opportunity to reflect on the teacher and their teaching. When walking in a classroom, could the walker observe evidence of instruction informed by assessment? After conducting walks in all of the classrooms in a school, leaders can begin to look for common threads that are in place within the school culture. For example, is there gradual release, including model-guided, independent practice in literacy instruction in all classrooms? Are learning intentions and success criteria being taught and visible? And are students being provided with descriptive feedback? How do teachers make thinking visible? With the use of accountable talk and graphic organisers. Are students engaged in rich performance tasks? Once a school leader has conducted many walks, they then move into the talk phase of learning walks and talks. Lynn gives leaders a very clear message about the importance of building the culture of learning walks prior to beginning the talks part of this strategy. She suggests that 5 walks in a classroom can help build a picture of the instructional practice employed by a teacher, which then can lead into a reflective conversation. The power of learning walks is the conversation that culminates after.
Part of the walks and talks. We've talked about this is the conversation with students, and this is what the students might say in answering those questions. What about conversations with teachers? You won't be having a conversation with a teacher after 5 minutes in a classroom. That's rather insulting to teachers. You can't make any judgments in 5 minutes, so it's important to change up the time of day you're walking and ensure that you've seen a teacher many times before you might get a reflective conversation.
The conversations are based on the notion of reciprocal and respectful relationships that lead to non-evaluative discussions that focus on observations. These might engage one teacher at a time or whole professional communities to elaborate, extend, apply and evaluate their thinking to create new knowledge about their practice.
So conversations with teachers are about honouring teachers as decision makers. And often when we ask the teacher a question, they actually haven't thought about it. So what we're trying to do in asking questions is not be confrontative, but actually just raise the level of teachers being consciously skilled about what questions or what decisions they do make in their classroom. So consciously skilled is actually a really important word. Many teachers don't know why things work, they just work for them. They're good teachers, but they're not sure they can actually articulate why it's working. And our jobs, I believe, are that we need to have those conversations with teachers to ensure that they can articulate why they're doing what they're doing and what's working. So conversations with teachers are really important.
The types of questions you ask is an opening for a learning-focused conversation. Through conversations with teachers, teachers articulate what they do in their classrooms and why they teach the way they do by thinking about the criteria they use to make decisions every single day in their planning and teaching to impact student learning. The reflective conversations are not evaluative. Rather, they are a catalyst for reflective practice. Reflective questions stimulate conversation and are a way for teachers to delve further into the instructional practice employed. Questions such as, what decisions did you make around the grouping of your students? When planning your lessons, how do you use assessment to inform your instruction? What criteria do you use when selecting resources? Are examples of reflective questions that can be asked by leaders to delve in further to the instructional practice employed by the teacher. Students benefit when leaders focus their work on pedagogical learning, shoulder to shoulder with teachers. Learning walks and talks provide an opportunity for leaders to model a belief that all students can and will learn, and all teachers can teach. Do you, as a leader, conduct learning walks and talks every day to collect evidence of impact on learning and have open to learning conversations by talking with teachers about their practice?